Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for the Into the LightWeb podcast, and I have got another amazing entrepreneur for my $1 Million Lab series, and I'm introducing to you Rune Sovndahl, who is an amazing entrepreneur, and I cannot wait to get into the story because his story, the little chat that we've had before this podcast started, has been really interesting me in how he's built his business and how he's built his wealth, but also the impact that he is having on the planet at the moment. So come and introduce yourself, Rune.
Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I mean, it's a real pleasure to get on this podcast. And listening to the episodes, there is so much stuff we're aligned with on the ideas of with education and with the value of money and so forth. My background started about, many years ago. I'm not going to say exactly how many because that gets embarrassing, but many years ago. But about 12 years ago, I founded what's now called Fantastic Services. We had a very simple goal, which was to make the easiest place to book any service. And we didn't want the 3 bits. We didn't want this. You're emailing, then you get a phone call from 3 suppliers and say, that's the price, that's the price. We want it to be press a button and it should work.
Okay, amazing.
The whole thing for me was very simple. It's like, I didn't think the other things were added value. I think it's about time, right? And the services that we're offering is we're finding the best cleaners, handymen, and gardeners and so forth. We're right now in the UK. We're expanding to the whole country. We're in Australia, and we're ready to take our foot into the US. We're opening up franchises. But I'll tell you a little bit about the background of why we saw this, because we saw the world as a big open marketplace. Mm-hmm. But then I found that the marketplaces that claimed to be two-sided wasn't that two-sided. That's why we said, how do we get the quality of a owner locally operated business into a big efficiency system, which is what comes of the economies of scale of being one company. Okay. And we looked at so many models, and that's why we came down to franchising. So we weren't in franchising in the beginning, we came into franchising. And it turns out that it's a better way of doing a local business with the support of a global part of it. So it's been a very interesting journey in the business in doing this. We started 12 years ago. We have revenues I think in US dollars, it's close to the 50 million mark. We have 350 franchisees across the UK and Australia. And it's been an incredible journey to set it up and build.
Let's just take a moment to celebrate 12 years of work, 12 years of holding this vision, 12 years of moving this way, and $50 million in revenue. You know, that is absolutely incredible achievement. And also as well, in a marketplace, to see this, the way that you are doing this is so different as well, because obviously you're creating, services that people are always looking for. I think it's services where it always feels like such a potluck, and you're taking some of the potluck out of this is what I feel, because, hiring a cleaner or hiring a plumber or hiring somebody like this is always a difficult thing. I think for many people, unless you have a recommendation. So tell us a little bit more about the sort of people that you serve within the franchisees. Who are your franchisees? Where do they come from? Like, what kind of walks of life?
Well, they actually come from all walks of life. And this is one of the things that really started as we grew better at it, started really interesting me. But I'd say that one of the things is, like, maybe we were hindered a little bit by scale by doing it this way, but compared to competitors who raised enormous amounts of money, just threw the marketing at it and grew their businesses, we've been profitable every single year, which is a whole different league of its own, because of the way we're running it. So it's like we're growing, but it's steady. The people are from all walks of life. One of my favorites is someone who came to us about 12 years ago and started as a removals guy, carrying boxes, and came and said, like, I want to do more than this. It's like, I'm carrying boxes now. And it's like, there's more I can do. Can I invest in a car? I said, sure. You know, can I invest in an area? Can I buy a franchise? Yeah. He was constantly saving up, and went from 1, 2, 3 up to 6 vans now, which is, to me, is like you started there with nothing. Brand new in the country almost. First job, and then going into owning 6 cars, and that's close to being, it's a six-figure business, a little bit more, and that's incredible.
It's
We're
amazing.
talking about high school education, maybe the first 4 months of university, and that's it. And still doing that, and that was an incredible thing to see, and incredible thing to help fostering this. And that's where we feel more like we're an entrepreneur platform by doing this the franchise way. Our really big aim is to do 1,000, and it's close to what you're saying, 1,000 businesses that do seven figure turnovers. And we're planning on all the training that goes through into doing that, because it's part of our, that's like what you buy from us from a franchise, um,
Yeah.
into doing that
And
journey.
also as well the support that comes with that as well, because I think this is something, that one of the things that, obviously, you being an entrepreneur for many years, and myself, I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years, is it's quite a lonely journey sometimes, right? It's quite, you are Johnny no mate some days, on being being an entrepreneur. You might have friends who are like, now I only have friends that are entrepreneurs, but in the early days I was the exception. I was the only entrepreneur, and I
And
find that so wonderful to have the support.
yeah, and probably back then they were like, "Why are you doing this?" Because you were
Oh
probably
yeah, of course.
less than they were doing in the beginning, and you're like, "Then why are you doing this now?" A couple of years later, go like, maybe those 5, 6 years where they put their head down and wore the same pair of shoes and the same pair of jeans and the same shirt for a couple of years was worth it. And we didn't see them because they were working so hard on this was possible. So maybe they're looking at it differently. I think this is one of the things. I mean, I was not a fan of franchising. But it was because I didn't understand what it was. And I think that it's also, there are so many various layers of it, just as there is with business. So when I really got to understand what redefined franchising was, it's a proven, profitable, pain-free partnership, right? Once we defined it as that, that's what our goal was. We set that in stone and said that's what we want to achieve with it, and building the whole support. And I have seen more positivity in doing that, and have found so much inspiration in doing that than I did in the years when we were just competing with everybody else. So
Yeah.
now we've got this team, and we all know what happened to the world the last 12 months. Suddenly we had 35 people who were vested in our company, who were ready to do what it took to help with what it needed to be done. And that would never have happened in a company where it wasn't that. So there's a bit of resilience that I didn't see in franchise companies that I really like. Wow, I was positively impressed by what we're building as this stuff, rather than a marketplace where they would just put you in the dumpster the moment you're not serving them anymore or giving them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So run by me the proven profitable. Run that by me again so we can hear that again,
So
because I really love this
proven.
definition of franchise.
It's proven, profitable, pain-free, and a partnership, right? Those are the
Proven.
four.
Yeah. I love
Proven,
that.
profitable,
Yes.
and it's the partnership was more important than I thought. It's something that I never thought really. I mean, partnerships were more like, to me, it was piggybacking in business. It was more like jumping on this and that,
Mm.
and partnerships, and then there's JVs where we all know there's no
Yeah.
real
Joint
mergers.
ventures.
There's always one person, one of the companies that buys the other, or one person who's in charge of this. And I said, well, if the franchise is set up to live off your commission in the longer term, and the fee is in the income based, because I think very often they get, it's I'm selling for 100,000 now, and I'm like, I'm selling 10 of them. Great, you've just made $1 million
Yeah.
in this fee, but are you actually providing value for it? Because I think very, very many of us don't think long enough ahead. And I think I was guilty of that when I started. I didn't think 12 years on that I was still going to be doing it. Now I love it, and it's going to be another decade. But when we started this, I didn't think that we were going to have 2 decades in the business, but I'm so happy that we did, because we really made me appreciate the longevity of a business, and also how to scale. I think if you think that far, there's a better chance for surviving. I remember sitting with a private equity in the beginning, like the second year, and he said, like, well, 12 months is 12 months is donkey's years, and that's 10 years in donkey year. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, in this business, it's going to go up and down and it's going to run so fast. And it's like, well, actually not, because we're talking about a people business here, right? Remember, Fantastic Services, we're cleaners, we're handymen, we're gardeners, we're your plumbers, we're your electricians. It's people business. It doesn't move the same way as, like, say, Bitcoin or a marketplace of
Yeah, where
products.
it's
It's a
high
fast fashion.
turnover. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
people. This is what I love about it, what you're creating here, because really what you're talking about is something that is a really key principle to our $1 million experiment, which is community. The idea that we're in it together, but also as well what the magic that happens inside a community, in that we see other people doing amazing, right? And we think, well, they're not that different from me. I could do those amazing things too, right? And that's the secret sauce. That's the magic that happens inside the communities. And I think that, you're absolutely right. And of course, when you build that community, it's a reciprocal relationship. We're giving into the community. Like you said, that 100K investment has got to have value to the person I'm giving it to. But also as well, obviously, that 100K has value to you. So there's this reciprocal relationship that builds. And I think, one of the things that we love to say inside $1 Million is that we love to say, a rising tide lifts all boats. As one individual within that community wins, we're all winning. And I think that's such a beautiful ethos, in the fact that we are building a business that's stronger than just the money, that's stronger than just the things that are material, but there is actually the strength within the community as well.
But I fully agree with that, Joanna. And I also like, one of the things is that we've got various levels of franchise, so they don't start all at 100,000. That's like for an existing business that's
Mm-hmm.
running. They can start all the way down to $1,500, depending on whether you're working, on what level it is. So they're really affordable. And we made that, but we did want a little bit of commitment. We have this internal thing which is called Fantastic Together. And the way that we are upholding the quality, and trying to make sure that the whole network delivers is like, because we have a cleaner out there one day. If that cleaner isn't good, then they're not going to book the gardener. So we all
Mm-hmm.
know that we're only as strong as our weakest link,
Oh
but
yeah.
combined, we are a force. And that's where, in the beginning, it was scary, because it's like, can we really adhere to that quality? Can we really go in and do that? And it turns out that it doesn't take long for the people joining us to understand, well, I'm getting benefits from doing a good service, and I'm getting benefits from the others having done a good service. So I think that our wheels of motion have started. Like, it's been a decade, but it's like the wheels of motion have really started now, and seeing that community. And that's what I said, like, pandemic really showed that there was a community, like the uh, sacrifice we all had to do and move around and make sure that this was done. We couldn't do this, XYZ. Some of the service was shut down. We retrained, we reskilled. I mean, everybody was doing everything they could. And as I said, like, I don't think that would have been possible otherwise. Like, the
Without the
teamwork
strength of the
there, yeah,
community.
yeah, the teamwork there.
Amazing.
And that's what shows me that when the next thing comes, because we all know that every single decade, the planet, the society, whatever, they will throw something at us, right? We started in
Absolutely.
a recession in 2008, and we started for one reason, is that the first customer we had, which was Lehman Brothers as a bank, we're doing
Mm-hmm.
all their beautiful boardrooms and carpet cleaning and this stuff here. We had 6 cars and very happy with it. It was gone overnight, right? And we had to pay
Yeah.
salaries for everybody who was there. So that was how the company was started. That's
Right.
when we took
Okay.
over. So we understood that. And instead of,
Amazing.
we knew that it's going to happen. And it's going to happen again in the next 10 years. Anytime Black Swan event, it's going to come. I mean, it's going to be something else next time.
Amazing. And tell us how much, because obviously, like, having that business gone overnight like that, and then pivoting, which is if 2020 had a word, I think it was pivoting. That was a word of 2020, apart from words that we cannot repeat in polite company. But I think, but 2020, the key word I think was pivoting. The people that won in 2020 were the people who were willing to pivot, who were willing to retrain, who were willing to be flexible and really prove why the human race has adapted in the way that it has, because we're so highly adaptable. But so you adapt and you create this in the recession, you create this company. How important has mindset played in that role? Because not everybody has a mindset that is flexible enough to pivot like that.
No, I'll tell you, it was only because um, it's only that mindset. I remember when we got the call that the UK is gonna be shut down. We knew from other countries it was like one by one it was gonna come, and there was gonna be lockdowns. So we knew already
Mm-hmm,
from the early January. We had 3-4 months to prepare and plan, but we never knew what day. We knew something was going to come. The UK
mm-hmm,
kept saying we're going to keep open. We're going to keep open. Um, Anton and me, and I don't know who of us said it, but it's like, he's my co-founder, and we've been working together for 12 years now. Um, we'd had it before, right? Like that reset, like tomorrow it's over. Um, and we had a call on the day together, and it's like, because we were in different countries, so it was just a call. This was before we got all the whole
mm-hmm,
Zoom thing completely running up, and now, I don't think we've seen each other for 6 months, but
mm-hmm.
um the call was very simple, and the mindset on that call was like, okay, so we're back to zero. I'm proud of what I've done for 12 years, but I've just lost it, right? Like we hadn't lost it, but the mentality of having lost it and just going like, accept your losses and move on now. And that, I think, was the deep pivot, because it's like, do you know what? I can't change my past, and I never will be able to, right? I can change the now, and I can potentially plan for the future, potentially, right? But that instant reset with us was like, okay, fine. We're where we were 12 years ago. It's like, just accept it. Whatever you've done, yes, you've got more experience, but you're at zero now. Like, bam,
I love
right?
this.
We had no idea whether we were going to go down 80, 90, 100% in the business. We didn't know whether we had enough money to keep staff on for substantial time. We've done all the right things. And I said, a lot of the companies that failed was because they didn't have that contingency. We didn't actually have to plug into it. That was how
Mm-hmm.
fast it moved. But it was that instant, like everything we had in our plan, like we both knew, right? Like it was like a synchronization. Then, next day was all the staff was told, we're at zero, right? We're starting from here. It's like everything we've done in the past doesn't matter. From now on, it's every single day at its go. And we communicated that out. We got very active on internal videos and live videos of broadcasting some of the meetings, some of the discussions. We formed really good task force, and it was incredible. We achieved more in the first 3 months than we had in the whole year prior to that.
Incredible. One of the things I want to highlight is this energy that you're saying we start at zero, because, you know, I've been a life coach for many, many years. And, one of the things is that obviously I help people transform their lives. I help people change their lives. And there is no change without acceptance. We have to accept what has come before. We have to accept the situation as it is. And the biggest problem for many people, in the reason why they can't move forward, or the reason why they can't move on from a crappy situation, is they're in resistance of it. They're not letting go. And what you did there, in on a metaphysical level, on a spiritual metaphysical level, is you let go of all resistance. So no wonder this incredible momentum that you had actually been creating for 12 years could just flow through you guys. And no wonder you had those results in 3 months, because that the metaphysics of that completely lines up, because there was no resistance in the fact that you were willing to be at zero, and not in resistance of being at zero.
No, but and it's something that I've seen goes again in the past. It's like, there's two things that I think are the most valuable
Mm-hmm,
emotionally to learn. One is forgiveness, right? And the
mm-hmm,
other thing is acceptance. I mean, as an entrepreneur, acceptance is extremely hard, because you know that somehow you feel that you're master of your own destiny. You're not. Period.
mm,
Right? No matter whether you're Bill Gates, Elon Musk, this stuff here, you have a hell of a lot of power with the money you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you are not at the end of it master. So accept that you are who you are, but also accept that you can do things with it, right? But those two
Mm.
things, like forgiveness and then the acceptance of, like, we are really very, very tiny, no matter how much money we have. We are human. Um,
Mm.
so it's that acceptance. I mean, like, otherwise you could wallow for so long in like, oh well, this and the government did this, and yes, we will launch this and this, but it's just like, that's what it is. Bam, go.
I
Right?
call that the coulda, woulda, shoulda soup. I could have done, I
Right?
would have
But
done, I should have done. And it's just a soup, and you're in the soup, and the vibration is awful. And it
no, and
doesn't do you any favors.
mud, it's blame, it's like, and
It's all the
it's the
disempowering
least
energy,
productive space you can be in.
the
There's
least
no
productive.
more. It's the least productive space you can be in. Like, you're dragging through nothing really. Yeah, it's
Yes,
super.
I love that. I love this insight because, this really is such a credit to the results that you've created in your life and the results that you have clearly created in the lives of others, as well as you've come together, built this incredible community. And I love this ethos of fantastic together. I mean, like that just makes it, even that in its own, in the name of it, it makes you want to be part of it, right?
Well, yeah, that's the idea, right, Joanna? But it's like, it came to us, not, it wasn't like we had the big marketing spiel of saying that's it. I mean, it came to us because we very quickly found out that the business works best that way, about the partnership and the proven profitable, and there's a lot of disagreements at times, but it's still, there is the get going is like, we're on a mission to do this, and I think that we can understand that. We in the pre podcast, we talked a little bit about purpose, and I
Yeah.
think the ideal one was to create this school, or this thing where we could go take anyone from the 5-figure to the 7-figure, in our franchising, which is what we're doing with the Fantastic Academy and the business academy inside that, in our franchising. But it sort of dawned on me later, and we hadn't ever written it down, like the purpose of things. There was a lot of things when, with my background in consumer marketing, I got offered everything from gambling, gaming, to very lucrative positions in the skills we have for consumer marketing. And I just said no, it wasn't for me. Yes, the money was there, but I just said no to it. It was like, okay. And only later came the idea about how sustainable also the company is, by cleaning, repairing, and maintaining things, like how important that
Mm.
actually was. And then it was like, whoa, hold on, we've been doing this the whole time. Now I understand, right? So looking back at it, because we were so busy, right? We were very busy making this company. We never really had the time on why do we keep doing it? Like, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you have to start doing this. You had to take a flight from there to there. You had to do this. Why do you wake up? And we never really thought about it, but it was there subconsciously. Like this is actually, not only is it creating jobs, right? It's also allowing a lot of our staff are sending money back home, uh, where they came from, to put their grandchildren or their children through university and so forth. So that was a good power. But it never really dawned on how much the company actually did as a force of good
The impact.
of things.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa. And when we just got it, it was like drinking rocket fuel, if that makes sense. So all of us were like, God, or it was already there, but we didn't see it. It was right in front of us, and everybody said, we love the company, we love working here. And I was like, what is it? We just had never put words on it. And it was like, whoa, cleaning, maintenance, and repairs is the most sustainable thing you can do. You're not replacing anything. You're not putting a carpet in landfill. You're cleaning it. You're keeping it. And you're maintaining a house instead of demolishing and building new, and so forth. There's so much stuff in it. And it was like, whoa, hold on. It was always there. And that's hard to stop. When everybody has that feeling of going to work, it's very hard to stop a company like that.
Yes. This is something that this is a conversation that I really wanted to have on this podcast. Actually, was about, because in my own brand, joannahunter.com, one of the things that is the ethos is behind is to create unparalleled spiritual education, and to really help to make humans really feel more whole and complete and happier, more fulfilled human beings. That is our mission. And a mission-based business is so much more powerful than just a business that's just doing it for profits, for, well, it's fun, or, any other reason. But when the reason is mission based, that this is so much bigger than the sum of its parts, it's like, I think Napoleon Hill coined this phrase, many moons ago, which was the mastermind. And, you get a group of people together with a like purpose, and it creates like an additional mind to the, say, for instance, that he always proposed that there was 8 people in the mastermind,
Mm.
and you would have 8 people, but there would be a ninth mind created. And that ninth mind was a powerful, very, very powerful. It became more powerful than the sum of the parts. And I feel like that very much in like mission-based businesses. When there is a mission in the core of the business, there is something incredible. I mean, we had Lisa on the podcast recently, who her mission was to help create amazing human beings out of children, as opposed to filling their heads with just academia.
Mm.
If, being able for young children to be able to process emotions and compassion and things. And I love this ethos that you have in your company of the sustainability, but also as well the impact that your workers have in how they can affect their family. Because it's, I think a mission always centers around the power of one.
Mm.
One life is changed, then another, then another, then another, then another. And before you know it, you have a movement that cannot be stopped.
Well, this is what we felt like with the power we got from our guys working with us. Versus like look, I'm from Scandinavia, so this thing about building a big. I mean, there's a lot of companies very good at the marketing of, we've got this mission, we've got this this like ethos, we've got all this other stuff, and I was like, well, is it just empty words? And I was like, because we didn't write it down, it wasn't something that we had, but it was like I I will, like all on the entrepreneurs and everybody else, I had dark days where I said, like, I don't know if we're going to be making it in 3 months. I don't know if we're still going to be around, right? I don't know if with this lockdown, is it going to be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months? Is it going to be a year? How much more are they going to shut down? Or so I had that. But then because of this paid back, and I'd say it's very hard for companies to say that. And very hard to do that. It's very easy to put it on the mission statement and write it on the wall. It doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
But to feel that coming from the company, I mean, the company made me get back to work and make me do my absolute best. And that was like, whoa. And as I said, that was like drinking the rocket fuel, because before that, it was like we're doing good, we're doing our growth and so forth. But like understanding that and the responsibility, suddenly it was like, I don't think we've ever had so much fuel in ourselves, in our drive, and everybody got so switched on to, this is our focus. And it wasn't a crisis in that as anymore. It was more like, that's our game, that's what we do. And that power was incredible, right? And I hope to see that going on for a long time further, and that's why we're gonna completely invest in continuing down that route, going into more sustainability. We're trying to open new services now with solar panel installation, rainwater recycling for flushing the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom and stuff like that. Everything you can do in that cavity wall insulation, any of those services are what we're going deeper into, because they're also like not as commoditized, but they're also like, how do we make sure that we're actually doing it right? So we are really going to move into
Yeah.
this area, and we're going to go deep into it, and that's why we're opening more franchises as well on that business, across the world. So it was like, as I said, the ninth mind you're talking about, that it wasn't me, it
It's
wasn't
like
my
something came
co-founder.
through you.
It was like, exactly, it was like everybody at the management team, it just enlightened us. And it was like, oh, I happen to be the one setting the words on it when I was like, because sometimes I'll be the one writing certain things, but I happen to be the one setting words on it. But it was like instant, everybody came with it. It wasn't one, it was something the company came with. And that was
Yeah.
strange, because I was the founder, right? So we've been on every single block, every single first dot, every single word of the website at the beginning was ours. And then suddenly the company has its own life. Then that was a magic moment to have that feeling. Like suddenly, whoa, it's bigger than me. Finally.
Yeah.
Like this will stand the test of time. And that was a big revelation.
I love this. I love this. So I love that, and I feel like this is something really, what I really love is that as well is that it's great to have, if you know what your mission is from day one, it is amazing. But I love how your mission has really almost the purpose first was just to do good work, and then the mission came. The mission revealed itself. The mission, came as a result of doing good work, and then came as a result of basically a national global crisis. And then it really revealed itself because the truth of what had been built, the light just shone on it. And I think this is a really powerful thing, that we don't have to have our missions from day one, that we can actually evolve into them. And sometimes a more powerful mission is the one that we evolve into, as opposed to the one that we started with.
Joanna, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's like when you listen to Steve Jobs' speech about the graduation, about how he did
The
collect
connecting the
people,
dots, I love that.
connecting the dot. And I mean, like when we're younger, we always think that there is a path, that's the path, right? What you don't realize is that line is only connected afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like the thing that I was like, if you're into Joseph Campbell and the hero, the hero's
Hero's
face
journey.
there, like the hero's journey, and you're like you're in there, right? You don't know you're the hero until you've slayed the dragon, right? You don't know you're there. It's like, well, why do we have to draw that line? It's like we all want to have, as I said, this is one of the acceptance part of you're not necessarily in charge, but if you keep doing that, the fuel is there, right? This is about sticking at it. And I think very often we forget this and we give up. It's like, oh, I can't play the violin. Well, how do you know? You haven't spent 10,000 hours in doing it, right? How do I know I can't lead this, or how do I know that I can't get to the seven figures? And the same, that path, like to create the Apple iMac or whatever is, like we're talking about the iPad or now the iPhone, to
Yeah.
create that was not day one goal, right?
No.
This was what came out of it, the sum of the parts. And I think very often we give up in that stage because it's like, oh, but the path was, we were supposed to be X, Y, Z of Y. But no, what about just being a good company? And then when that company gives you that fuel, then go at it. So
Yeah.
it's like a second, wow. And then, I can't wait for the next pivot in the next decade. So it's
It's
gonna
going to be
come.
incredible. I mean, it's going to be incredible. And I have such a good feeling about your company, especially in, going into things like my husband is so interested in, like, he is an Elon Musk fanboy. And I know that he won't mind me saying this because he loves the fact that this guy is creating sustainability, things like that, solar panels, everything like that, because this is where our future lies. We can't continue on the path of always new.
Well,
We have to look after what we have.
Elon has one advantage is that he's not afraid, right?
No,
This is a big advantage because he's ready to bet on bust or this stuff here. Like, is his solar city? Is this stuff here? I mean, that's to me is his unfair advantage. Like Elon is not afraid, right? He has this safety net. I think that he knows that if it should all fail, he's accepted absolutely what I said. Like he's back to zero tomorrow
yeah,
because he's done that. Well, he also accepted that every single thing he made from PayPal uh, was lost in the first
yeah.
part of it. Now he's got it back. I think Elon has that, is that he's very afraid, but he doesn't let that stop him, right? So he's accepted that.
No, and I think one of the things that is very key for an entrepreneur that Elon models really beautifully is that he's not afraid to fail. And so many people are afraid that they are going to make a mistake, or they're going to fail, or they're not going to do it right. Or like you said, like, how do you know you're not good at violin? Have you done 10,000 hours? Like, how do you know? Like, no one is good off not very, very few people are going to be able to pick up a violin and be good from day one, right? It takes practice. It takes being consistent,
But
and not being afraid to look silly or stupid.
exactly, and I think that being in that, like the Joseph Campbell of the hero's journey, right? Being in that is like, well, whatever's going to come is going to come, right? We don't really have that control, but when the dragon comes, we'll either slay it, or you're not the same that goes in as that comes out of that journey. You're not the same.
Mm.
That ego is dead. You've got to come through that, and that differences is what you're slaying. The dragon is actually yourself, right? That's your ego that limits that belief of this stuff. Oh, hold on, I'm so afraid of failing. Like, look, it stopped me many times from starting up. It stopped me many times from actually going into a new thing or adding this and this. And I mean, the fear of failure is constantly there. And I mean, like Elon has it as well. If you listen to his podcast and listen to some of the things he said, he has the fear as well. The thing is the fear is not the problem. Is if you let the fear control you, because you have no
Yes,
control anyway. You have no control anyway. You
not
know,
at all.
you don't have
And
it. So
I feel like this is something I talk a lot about in confidence, is that a lot of people, I have always been quite a confident person, but the thing is, people say, well, it's okay for you, you have confidence. Like, I come with no fear. I have plenty of fear. I have exactly the same fear as a non-confident person, but I don't allow the fear to define me. And it's the same, like it's the same in the entrepreneurial journey. Are you going to let the fear define you, or are you going to choose to define yourself? And
yeah,
I think that's the key, isn't it, to letting go and not being afraid to take bold steps and bold actions, and being willing to be not like, when COVID hit, you had a very vulnerable business for COVID. I mean, you had people in other people's homes, right? And it was lockdown, and it was like no one's going anywhere. And for you to be willing to be the definition for yourself and say, okay, we're gonna work this problem like we are from zero.
yeah. I managed to get on advice to the government on some of the things of what should be kept open, what could be kept open, and what safety stance should we take. But taking that back to one thing about the entrepreneurialism, right? Is like I define it as we've got four things that we as entrepreneurs or as careers or as, let's say, like rather than just in the box standards, we've got one thing is getting a job or having work, right? The other thing is doing is buying a business, right? Buying a
Mm-hmm.
business and investing in it. And then you've got the other thing, which is building a startup, which I think is the hardest. And then you've got the franchise, which is compared to this stuff. If you've got the airplane assembled, you're going to roll it off the cliff. Whereas a startup, you've got to figure out how it works on the way down.
I've done plenty of
Um,
startups.
and I think the fear factor is so much, but I also think that there is a time in your life where one of these things fits very well. There's times when a job and a work is the best thing for you. There's times when buying a business is the best thing. There's times when doing a startup is the best thing, even if you fail or not. But there are times where a franchise would work much better for you financially. So it's about finding that time in your life, and and
Mm.
not being dictated by fear, because I think that's where we feel pressure from outside, right? Our generation now being told, be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, well, not everybody is ready to be an entrepreneur right now. And not everybody should be an entrepreneur, not because I'm afraid of competition. On the contrary, it's more like not everybody is at the right place to do that,
Mm.
because it's extremely hard. Like the resilience you have to have. I mean, the number of startups that fails, what is it, in the 90% rule
Oh,
versus,
really, really
you
high,
know,
really
I
high.
mean, and if you then count the number of startups that never get off the ground, it just stays an idea, is another story, right? But the whole thing is about failing, but failing in a way of that every single failure isn't necessarily learning, but it's you don't lose the momentum in your joy of doing it, right? In your joy of doing it, because that's kind of what the job is to fail, but fail forward, right?
Yes. It's like it's all a stepping stone. I mean, I look at my earlier businesses, my very first proper business before I did all the lemonade stands, all that kind of stuff. But my first was a designer clothing boutique. And then I opened a 65-seater licensed cafe and bistro. And then I went from that to a designer shoe shop and a partnership. Then I expanded my shops to 3 retail locations. And then, as if all that wasn't challenging enough, I did a spiritual events pop-up company where we did pop-up events all over the Highlands, and we even took it over to Ireland and places like that as well. So yeah, we were busy back then, but everything, like nothing was wasted. Like, I don't prep food like now like I did when I had a cafe, but yet none of that is wasted. Like, what I learned in that is something that I've been able to take forward in all my businesses now. And it's one of the reasons why I feel, as a business coach, I've literally got such a home field advantage, because I've got all this experience, real life experience, for so many different businesses, genres, and different things. And I think you're absolutely right. It's all these stepping stones, and it's very easy when, like my cafe, for instance, we did it for 2 years. It sucked. It was, it did well. I mean, it was a 6-figure business. It did well, but the thing was, it was such hard work, and it really, really sucked. And but I would never have known that it sucked so bad if, like, I think if would have been really, really different if, like, I had been like a chef and it was my absolute baby and it was my passion and I loved creating new dishes and new food and things like that. What I really wanted was, I wanted a decent coffee shop in my hometown, and no one was opening one, so I opened one, right? So I didn't actually want to own a coffee shop. I wanted to go to a coffee
Good
shop.
coffee.
Exactly. So
That's how
we
I
knew that wasn't going to work, right?
that's
But
how I invested in my coffee shop, right? But I bought a franchise instead, because now I learned about franchising, which is a lot easier. Then you get the COO to get in and operate it, and then it's there's a bigger return on that rather than starting up from ground as well. Whoa.
well, we started everything from the ground. Like, I mean, some of my first shop that we started with £3,500.
Mm.
And we had a 6-figure business turnover in under a year.
Mm.
And it was absolutely incredible. And it was me, myself, and I, and that was it. And my £3,000 painted my shop walls, bought my stock, all the things. So we're no strangers to startups here, but it is. But everything has grown me. Everything has learned. And what has been some of the most important lessons that you have learned in your business?
Well, I think exactly what you said, and I was going to ask you a question on this, Joanna, because I think the lesson that I really learned was that it doesn't really matter that I fail. What matters is that I immediately get up again and start doing again. You know,
Mm,
it taught me a lot about, as you said, about your friends with being entrepreneurs. Um, it taught me a lot of getting off the couch and not being on Netflix or whatever, reading the news, for example, or wasting
mhm.
time on TV series or whatever it is. It taught me a lot about that. Right. So I think the number one lesson was that perfection is impossible. Right? It doesn't exist.
No.
So it doesn't exist, and it's like that's a weakness or a handicap in the disability, to play with that. So I think that was one of the things, and doing is the only way of learning it. And so that understanding of that there wasn't a path written for me, but that path would be the legacy I left behind me. So that clear mark into where I'm going to end up was yeah. It's like trying to draw it forwards, impossible, right? But in the wake, you'd see it was so clear that was what's going to end up with. But in the path, so understanding where I am now was the other lesson, right? So one was this thing about that it doesn't really matter to fail, right? The other one was like that the wake is going to come afterwards. Because I looked at a lot of things. I had a little time after one of my businesses. I sold it, and I was just sitting there and going like, oh, so I traveled, spend all the money, and then we started Fantastic with also about £3,000 in total. So it's also proper bootstrapped. We did 7 figures in the first year, which is incredible.
Fantastic.
It's just
Amazing.
down to having a lot of unfair advantage, and then the synergy. You do that, I do that. Okay, bam, and then it merged and happened, right? Whereas it wouldn't have happened if let's say we had been friends beforehand. In that aspect, it was more like, well, I can see your skills, you can see mine. Okay, well, let me do my stuff and you do yours, and like let's trust that. And that was a bit about partnership. That was a early day stuff, but it's like that trusting that thing. So I think it's like I really don't like the word luck, or I like the word luck, but I don't like the word good luck, because I think that the definition is very simple. It's like there is both good and bad luck, but it's about what you do with whatever happens. Like whether every
Yeah.
single moment. And that was what I was going to ask you. Is like every single of those moments of failure, you had a choice of lying down and going angry about what happened, giving up, right? But you didn't. And I think that was the number one thing, is just don't give up. It's
I
very
didn't,
hard.
yeah, definitely didn't give up, but there was moments I was plenty angry. I mean, my business partnership did not end well. It was a friendship imploding business partnership. And so I was,
Yeah.
trust me when I tell you, I was plenty angry when, but I think also as well, being willing to, when it got tough, not to like be like, oh well, this is it then. You know, like
Mm.
that's when I got the bit between my teeth and I was like, no, I'm not letting go. I used to say to myself, I didn't come this far just to get this far.
No, exactly.
I didn't come this far just to get this far. And even if I could not see how it was going to work out in the future, I was like, I would breathe and I'd be like, I didn't come this far to get this far. And I knew something else would reveal itself if I could stay calm, stay centered, not lose my crap, basically, you know? And
Exactly.
I think, that's the thing, right? That's the thing.
And did you have a dream? Because it's like, did you have a dream? Because I work a lot with the franchisees when they come in the beginning. On one thing is that everybody would like to have a positive ROI in the first 12 months, which can be done. It depends a little bit on how much you invest and what kind of skills you have, whether you can plug the
Mm-hmm.
gap without paying for it, or looking for the big profit. Because at the end of the day, we talked about money as a driver. Money is, to me, is a measuring post of something, and it allows you to start thinking about what you can do next with. And money allows you to give you freedom that you wouldn't have otherwise, but it's not the ultimate goal. But everybody, depending on where you are on the level of need or a hierarchy of need of Maslow's, then there's a different thing. Once you get to a certain stage, it's like, okay, that's okay. But did you have a dream long term? Like this is where I'm gonna end up. What kept you going in that thing?
So in all my
Like,
different businesses, I had different dreams for each business. I had different dreams for each business. So when I had my clothing shops, one of the dreams was to have one on every high street. I could not think of a bigger nightmare now. So it's so funny that a dream from the past could now be my definition of a nightmare.
yeah,
So, you know, I had this idea that we would bring, you know, incredible fashion to the world, you know, and I started my business at 23. So I've evolved, I've grown
yeah.
as a human. And I remember when I was ready for giving the shops had to go because there was this woman who came into the shops and, she was really slim and she tried on this pair of jeans. They were Italian jeans. They were absolutely gorgeous. They fitted her like a glove. They were the perfect fit. She came out of the fitting room and she said, do you think I look really fat in these? Do you think I look really hideous in these? And I remember thinking to myself, I did not want to sell her the jeans. I wanted to go and make her a cup of tea, sit her down and really speak to her about what is going on inside her. Because how does this woman who is beautiful looking think that she looks terrible? Because what I saw and what she saw in that mirror were completely different things. And that was a moment where I knew that I'd come to the end of the road with my shops and I needed to dream a new dream. And when I opened this business, I had gone on a huge journey because I'd had a massive burnout before I had this business. And so I'd gone on this huge journey. And so the dream for this business has been rooted in community, but it has also been about creating a freedom in my life so that I could be free to create something extraordinary for the world, for the planet, for my children, to leave a legacy that people, you know, can connect into for years and years to come, regardless of whether I'm here or not, to leave a body of teachings here.
Well, Joanna, it's really interesting what you say, and I'll tell you about that thing, or her emotions at that stage, and it's one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that and one of the reasons why I kept going at it with Fantastic, despite maybe in the beginning it wasn't the most profitable, it wasn't the most interesting, because I got a lot of offers as I said, as CEOs of different things. Um, I found my definition on that one was that I did not want to sell addiction. And it's the same as what we were talking about Facebook. If you've seen The Social Dilemma,
Mm.
Facebook, the ads, Instagram, addiction, addiction, addiction. It's the same with beauty. It's the same with beauty. It's the same with the addiction to fashion, fast fashion. It's an addiction.
Yes,
It's the
definitely.
same as gambling.
Well, I
It's
love that.
so for me, it was more like
Mm.
I wanted to do something, and it's a hard uphill battle because addiction works so well on marketing aspects, right? And they all know that. And like the fastest growing companies deal with addiction, right? It's like they're dealing in addiction. They're doing the UX in addiction. They're doing everything else in addiction. For me, it was more about how do I make it easier, right? It doesn't have to become addictive, but how do I make it easier? And I think that was when it realized for me, and it was actually a really dark night when I was a very youngster. I was dealing in a call center and a gaming center, and it was a very, very nasty experience. It was I was sitting and minding the phones on the customer care stuff, and a client in that, it was a side job I had. A client in there was doing gaming and gambling, right, which is where you put your money and you gamble and the stuff. Here, the sport bet had gone the wrong way, and apparently he'd gambled all his rent money or mortgage money that he was supposed to buy a house for this stuff because he was sure it's going to win. And I spent 3.5 hours on that guy on the phone because he was ready to take his own life. I'm not a trained psychologist. I'm not this stuff here, but that's when I knew that I will never in my life. And this was I was very young back then. I tried to get him onto the Samaritans and everything else, and getting the suicide hotline and everything else that was there. 3 hours of this stuff. He said, like, I'll never deal with something that's where I could drive people within my company. I couldn't. And that was what I stepped away immediately, and said that was it. It was such a defining cornerstone in our business, or in my business, in my entrepreneurship. And it's like, well, I realized that there was so much money to be made on these things: the betting, the gaming, the forex trading, the bitcoins, and all this. So I was like, it doesn't matter, right? I never felt it was giving me anything. I wasn't adding anything to anything.
It wasn't fulfillment,
So
like
empty.
real, true,
Yes.
spiritual
It was so
fulfillment. Yeah.
And people could go the wrong way. It is betting, right? It is betting. And I was like, I can't, it's not. And I was like, damn, I came to London to, live the Wall Street life, the stock exchange and stuff. And wow. And it was so deep in me. And I was like, okay. So the journey took longer to build fantastic service and to become that. And it chose me. Not the other way around, but that's why I stuck into it and just said, like, well, it's one place where I can make a difference. And now let me do it.
Yes.
Big,
I love that.
Big words.
I realized with my clothing shops, I was in the right place. And the whole idea, what I loved about the clothing was that how clothing could give somebody confidence. Like when they had the right outfit on that felt really good and they felt good about themselves, that it could change an outcome. It could give them confidence. I would have young boys that would come and they would be like, oh, I'm going out on Saturday night. And, and then they would come in and tell me the next week that they met their girlfriend or something. And that was fun because, we helped to dress them and they felt good and they felt amazing walking out. And that, of course, affected their behavior and things. And I realized I was in the right
part of the business.
Yeah, I was in the right piece. But it was in the wrong business. Like it was about making people feel good. Yeah. And what I had done was in the beginning, I had just gone I had done Feel Good Light, which was the clothing. That can change how a person feels when they're in colors that they enjoy to wear or clothing that they enjoy to wear, but only to a certain point, because it's like a Band-Aid on a broken leg when you feel terrible about yourself. And it was that moment where that woman who was gorgeous looked in that mirror, and I was standing behind her and I was looking at her thinking, wow, those jeans fit you so well. And she's like, she saw something hideous in that mirror and I couldn't see it. And I was like, wow, this is the moment I realized I want to do something more that is more meaningful. I want to help a woman like this to look in that mirror and be like, I love who I am. I love what I see. And that was a really pivotal moment for me. But I think the business started off in the right lane. I grew it. And I think that's an important thing, that we are allowed to outgrow even our businesses.
No amount of Louboutins or whatever kind of shoes you're into is going to fill that gap. Right. And no. I've listened to some of the episodes, and it's the same as and they all talk about the same thing. Like, well, I was like, well, once you get past the 6 figures and up to the 7 figures and stuff here, the thing that changes kind of the brand you wear, but it's not what defines you as a person, right? It doesn't change you in that. So it defines, I'm drawing a bit of card, this stuff here. And then my cleaner, instead of coming every once a week or twice a week, it comes every, now and then, like every second day and so forth. And there's certain things where like the holidays I do is a different kind of hotels than I would otherwise, but it doesn't define you in the difference. So once you get up to that, but no amount of materials could fill that, because that's a different hole, right? It's a different gap. And I think that's an important aspect to see. And that's what you're doing now, right? Joanna? I mean, with your business coaching.
That's exactly what I do. I work on personal fulfillment.
Yeah. And it's kind of where we ended ended up, but in a good ways, like with our mission to do 1,000 7-figure franchisees out of this, and I make it a personal mission to make sure that I'm also writing the books, the programs, and everything else that fits into that. So finding that purpose, and that it drives me so much. It's such a different drive, you know. It's such a different culture from where you were at before, and you
Mm.
realize that because every single business will become boring at one stage, right? It's like, and if you don't have that fulfillment, it's understanding the why. I mean, we're talking about finding it. It's like, well, a lot of people think they have to have it beforehand. Now my advice would be like, no, once you're ready for it, the why will come to you. And you saw the same, Joanna, right? It's like once you're
That's
ready, the
right.
why will come to you, because it's like, I was like, where is my why? I remember getting a job offer. I'm not going to say the name of this stuff here. And I said, like, well, if I do this and I spend a decade on doing this stuff here, I'll be Mr. Pizza. I don't want to be that, because I'm going to make people obese by doing the takeaway stuff. And I was like, I
Mm.
can't do that. And it's like that was the thing. So like sometimes you could have gone in and I was like, well, I could also have changed that on a purpose-driven business and said like, well, for now we're only serving healthy food, but you know, right?
You
Those
got,
things.
yeah, there's got to be, I
This was
think,
separation.
it's interesting you're saying that the why can come, because absolutely it can come. And I think a deeper why comes, but I think it's important to have a why from day one. But I think the lots of people want to have, they're in lack. They build a business, they start a business maybe from a place of lack, right? I certainly started my businesses from a place of lack. I did not have very much. I had only 3,500 to invest in my very first business. So I was totally in lack. We were living
Incredible.
paycheck to paycheck. So, but so my why, I say, there is no shame in having a personal why. My personal why was I wanted to build wealth for my family first and foremost, but it's all in levels of consciousness. So if that's a beautiful, perfect, powerful why, to have to just get yourself out of the shit first,
Yeah.
because once you're there, you can move to the next level, then the next level, and eventually, just like you said, the Maslow's higher needs, eventually it becomes about everybody else.
See, I kind of look at it from another perspective, right? And it's I worked it down backwards, because I said, oh, I wanted to do good in the world. But how can I do good if I have absolutely no money, right? It's like some people felt guilty about making money, right? Which is a whole different ballgame when we're
That's
talking about here, right?
another different story right there,
The
right?
whole different story there. So I don't want to go into that one on why people feel guilty. It was like, but I also said like, well, if you have none of it and you're not healthy yourself, how are you going to help the next, right? Think about your air mask first, right? Like your the oxygen mask first, and that for a long time I didn't look after that, and I got so tired, I got so burned out, and the company was sluggish. The company was
Mm-hmm.
sluggish because I would come in, I'd be like, do this, do that, and didn't really have it. So I think that you do have to have that oxygen mask on first. You do
Yes,
have to look after
absolutely.
that,
You have to
and
be,
that
like we
why
call it, do your own
changes.
rescue. Like you have
Yeah,
to be
that
willing to be
why
your own
changes.
rescue.
Yeah, and
It's
that
so
why
powerful.
Yeah, and that why changes when you get into it. So it's like, oh well, the big purpose. Okay, well, let's save the planet. Okay, well, let's do that, but let's start with one step at a time. Because how do you save the planet one step at a time? And then you take those steps in the right action of it. There's no way you can save from where you are in that perspective, but you can take all the right steps and you can work with like-minded people who wants to go in the same direction. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that I think it's really important that we have to start with ourselves. We have to start with ourselves. We are the initial building block. Build the initial building block in the most incredible way that you have to build that building block. And that building block will serve you again and again and again when it is fulfilled itself. And that's what became my mission. When after I had my huge burnout, that was my realization, that I had been given on empty for so long, which is what resulted in my burnout. And then I went on a journey, which I wrote a book called Get Selfish, The Way Is Through. And I went on what I call my Get Selfish journey to really get myself, to know what it took to fulfill myself before I even attempted to try and fulfill another human being, which I had been trying to do for years before that. But I didn't even know what it took to be happy myself. So how was I ever going to be an expert for anyone else how to be happy?
Well, that brings us into the whole other thing, but I think that's another podcast to talk about. Joanna,
Definitely.
is the idea of coaching right now, and the area of coaching right now, everybody seems to be opening training, right? But I think that brings us to another one.
That's
Uh,
that's another
that's
that is a
whole different
juicy
kettle of fish. I mean,
conversation for another day.
but talking about
Definitely.
talking about the things we talked about is like the motivation, the year of pivot, right? The drive that goes through a failure of continuing at it when you're failing, the emotional part of the journey, going through finding your why, and that thing about that your path isn't written in front of you; it comes in your wake, right? It comes
Mm,
in the waves that comes behind your boat. Your speedboat's going that way. That's the direction that line is drawn, like the white lines we used to see in the sky when we were able to travel. After the planes, that comes afterwards, right? It doesn't. It's not there before the plane. So it recognizing that and going like, well, the book will be written after you, not before. And the books you're reading about the others, where you're looking at the other entrepreneurs, that's written after the event.
yes.
So
Yes.
you are the hero in the journey, right? And I think that's why I bring it back to Joseph Campbell. Campbell's the hero's journey because it is in that journey of that ego that changes. And I look a lot of that in our franchisees and like how are they going to grow to that seven figure, right? We've got a very strong mission to help that happening. They will find their why. It's not our why. It doesn't have to be the same purpose as Fantastic Services. It doesn't have to be the same purpose of this stuff here. They will have their own why, and that's their personal why. Once they get to that level, then maybe they're going to invest in the bigger why. But let them get to that step first to see
Yeah.
their personal why. Yeah.
Let's let them get that oxygen mask on first so that they can do good work in this world, right? This is the thing. We can't do good work when we're all starving for breath.
No, no, exactly. So that's why I
Oh,
said that.
I really loved
Yeah, this was
speaking to you
amazing.
today, Rune. It's been absolutely, this has been such a great conversation. And I know that our podcast listeners are going to love hearing all about what we have been talking about in this podcast. So tell people where they can find you and what type of people that you help in your business and things so that they can find you on the internet. And we're going to link all your links, all your things in the show notes as well. But if they're just keen to get on there right now and Google something, what can they look up and find you?
Well, the whole brand is on fantasticservices.com. That's where all the bookings, if you need a cleaner now, you said it yourself, outsource what you're not good at. I mean, and it is such a luxury. So on fantasticservices.com, you can find the cleaners. Fantasticfranchise.com is for all the things franchising, about the different levels you offer, the easy entry up to the masters to the area. Um, I'm very active on LinkedIn on the thought pieces that I do, and also about the business. I've got a book coming out later this year, exactly about the emotions that you go through into scaling your business, especially
Mm-hmm.
around franchising. And I do talk a lot about emotions, so it's really a nice pleasure to go through and being able to talk this, because otherwise we were asking about marketing tricks and so forth. It was a different discussion here. I really like
Mm-hmm.
that, Joanna. But on my LinkedIn, it's Rune Sovndahl. On LinkedIn, it should be quite easy to find with my
Mm-hmm.
first name. It's quite unique. So it's my last name as well. So it's quite easy to find me. But Fantastic Services and fantasticfranchise.com, and then Rune Sovndahl on the LinkedIn. We'll give you the links on Joanna's blog, Into the Light. Listen, it was a real pleasure, and I think it was nice to hear, and it's been nice to listen to other people's journey as well on this. And I think you're really shining a light on something that's slightly different on it. So it's a more intimate sort of discussion about the entrepreneur, and because everybody can talk about 10xing something,
Oh
once you've
yeah,
had the
yes.
success, that's endless. But the actual thought that goes through, um, it was really interesting. I'd love to hear more about your thoughts about a lot of things, Joanna. So I look forward to listen to the next episodes as well. So thank you very much for having
Oh,
me.
thank you. Thank you so much. I just really enjoyed this discussion, and I know that people are going to get so much out of it. And it is so, and I love the pieces that we talked about failure, because it is such an integral part. I consider myself an expert in failure. Like I have failed so many times. And it's not failure because they're just stepping stones into something greater. So
Steps.
um yeah, and it's that. And each time I got a little bit more badass at not being so afraid that I would fail.
Yeah. So it's just steps. It's not failure. It's just steps, one
It's
step
just
at a
that.
time. And it's
Yeah.
like, sometimes those steps don't always go upwards, you know,
Oh,
and they can be very slippery.
Yes,
just don't let it stop you, right? That's my advice.
exactly. Just don't let it stop you. That is a perfect note to end on. So thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciated this.